Thursday, January 26th, 2023. I'd like to call a regular meeting of the Harlan Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees to order. We'll start with approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
Item number 3 is the approval of the consent agenda. It includes the minutes of the January 12th board meeting, abstract of claims number 1228 in the amount of $1,037,699. And the upcoming board meetings, we will have 2 regular meetings in February, one on February 9th and one on February 23rd.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
Item number 4 will be the minutes of the City Council meeting from Tuesday, January 17th, appointing Douglas Hammer to the HMU Board of Trustees. So to receive and file.
Do we need a motion on that, or?
No, I think it's just the moments. And Doug, welcome aboard. Great to have you.
Nice to see you again, Doug.
And you too.
Item number 5, Clayton Energy presentation on gas rates and resolution number 26-2023. You're up, sir.
That was fast. Thank you.
At the beginning this time.
That's nice. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Okay. Here's a sheet that was late, so I don't think it got into your packets, so just want to
Thank you.
give you all a copy to follow along as I do a little explanation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who would like one over here? You like one?
I'll take one of those two if I could.
Okay.
If you have enough, please.
I believe I do.
Thank you.
There you go. I'm sure. Okay. Good. Okay.
Should take one yet.
Oh, you did take one. I thought you said you'll pass on it.
Yeah, she's newspaper.
I got one for myself. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to.
All right. I'm, for you new board members, I'm your new gas supplier, our company. Just a quick history for you. We've been in business for 30 years this year, and I spent 5 years working for other companies to kind of figure out how this works. And then when the pipeline converted from a supplier to a transporter only in 1993, there was an opportunity for me to start serving municipalities, and so that's what I did. I left and went on my own, but I'll get back to that 93 date in a little bit. But we serve all of the communities in Iowa that are municipalities now, except 2. So we've come a long ways from 1 in 93 to, I think we have 55 today. And you guys officially became customers in December of 2022, just to give you a little history. The reason I'm back again so soon is we've done a lot of work since we kind of took this system over, studied the way you guys have been operating, and we've kind of restructured how the rates should work in your community. And what I want to do today is I want to go over that with you, that sheet basically that I handed out. I also want to thank Joe and Colburn and Jenny for a lot of work that we've been doing, a lot of work the last 30 to 45 days to get where we are today, and for them to understand the structure that we have and we are suggesting that you guys put in place. It's a proven system. It's a system we use for all of our customers. It's standard. And it kind of leaves your old system behind. Your old system is outdated. It might have worked through 1993, the date I'm going back to again when I started. The pipeline used to have what they call a general service rate. So when they opened up for deregulation, if your marketer didn't show up with the gas that they told you they would do for you, then the pipeline stood there as a backstop under general service rate. And that has changed. The price of gas fluctuates along with pipelines do rate case, and they increase their rates from time to time. So all of that is caught in this new type of structure, and I'm going to walk through it with you here. And moving to this system is really what I recommend. That's what all my customers have, and it's a wonderful system. The old system you had like a 5-week billing system, and that doesn't really work for a 3-cycle billing that you guys have in the city of Harlan. So I'm going to start walking through this unless somebody has any questions before I start. Okay. This is a little rate study that I put together based on information that I received from Deb and Jenny and Colburn and Joe. So in the yellow at the very top is the annual usage by the rate class that you have here in Harlan today. And that's on the low end. We always establish rates based on, a lower year within the last 5 years to make sure that your rates are covered. You guys actually used around 490 per year, but 465,000 is what we base our rates on. And what we're doing is your old system had a meter charge base rate, and then you had a base rate for gas cost, and then you had what they called a GPA, which was an adder on top of the base rate. So you had kind of a meter rate, and then you had a 2-part rate. And what we're doing is we're moving to a 1-part rate to where you still have your meter charge, and then you have your cost of gas. Instead of having it be in 2 parts, it's the same thing, it's just going to be a 1-part rate. Transporting natural gas to your city is a total of a 3-part rate. It is 1, the cost of gas, and that fluctuates dramatically as you're aware of from the history here. And then you have the cost of transporting the natural gas to your city through Northern Naturals pipeline. That's part 2. Part 3 is the utilities distribution fee. And that distribution fee needs to cover the cost of the operations of your system here, payroll, trucks, equipment, everything that you do, maintain the system. It needs to have a margin in it, a profit of some kind that continues to keep you guys in the black. And that's what we did, is we put together that based on your last 3 years of budgets. So walking through this example, using the gas costs that you guys have had in place under gas cost 469.9 is what part 1 would be of a utility bill. Part 2, the demand cost, that $1.49.53 that you see there, that is the cost of all of Northern Naturals transportation to bring it to your city, divided by the usage that you have in your community. So that's a pretty good rate. You guys have a lower demand rate than a lot of cities have, but we're going to get to that in a minute, and I'll explain why you have that. The variable cost is a really small number. That is the cost of moving the commodity across Northern's pipeline. They have a reservation, which is a reserve basically. You pay so much per month to have a certain amount of volume to call on at any time. That's the demand. The variable is what you actually move through that demand volume. And then you have a Harlan distribution fee, and that applies differently to different rate classes, but that's the money that I was talking about that enables you to cover your budgets and to provide a margin for your community or for your gas system to continue to operate in the black. And the next item I have is really an important piece. Your future capacity expansion, I put in there of 25 cents. Just to give you an example, we took over in December, and on December 22nd, you remember how bad it was here. It was minus 14 for a high and 50-mile-an-hour winds for 24 hours. You guys have not increased your capacity here at the city of Harlan for a long time. You have 22,610 of capacity here at your city. You burned 3,995, almost 4,000 on December 22nd. That's what you did back in February of 21 when things got pretty difficult here in your gas department, and you only burned 3,600 back then?
36.
You hit a new peak, as well as most cities hit a new peak. That was a very bad 24-hour period. But we covered you. I know you guys paid dearly in February of 21, but I came to this community 4 years ago, I want to say, for the first time, with Brad Honnold from Coon Rapids, and he came here with me to try to explain to the city about the capacity issue that you guys had. And it didn't work out at that time for the group that was here to understand or maybe take action for you guys. So I came back with Jeremy Carroll from Manning when they were putting in a pipeline to serve the FAC facility up in Arcadian, Iowa. And I knew Northern had given you a proposal for $1.5 million for an extra 500 of capacity. And your current administration at the time did not take that. And we came to you guys with an answer for half that price because Manning was putting in a new system and we could buy more firm at the new system, and Manning comes right by Harlan on the way up on the Denison branch line. Well, the administration did not take that either. So what's happened is you guys are in a situation where you have a 4,000 a day peak day and 2,600 of capacity. That's extremely dangerous. We, of all of our communities, you're the only one that has capacity that is way under what your peak day is. And I'm not here to add expense to your system. I'm here because 20 years from now, I may not be here and you may not be here. And I'm here to put Harlan on the path to be successful and to be independent 20 years from now and put you guys in the same position that all the other Iowa communities are in. So to give you an example, December 21st, 2nd, and 3rd, when you hit those volumes, you would have had penalties of, I believe, $80,000. And you did not incur those because those same cities that came here to explain what was going to happen if that were to happen, we used their capacity, City of Manning and the City of Coon Rapids, to cover you guys because they have extra capacity. And being in the group that we have of 55 municipalities, we work together for each other. Everybody, you don't financially support anybody, but you guys were being supported because you needed capacity and you needed gas. And those cities stood by and eliminated $80,000 worth of penalties for you guys for 3 days. I didn't know we were going to run into that quick. We started December 1. But anyway, so what I put in here is I put in here a future capacity expansion. It's not a lot. I'm not sure that 25 cents is enough. I honestly think it should be closer to 50 because you're behind. And I know if you went to buy enough capacity today to meet your peak day, it's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million. Well, it's a tough pill to swallow. I understand that. But we got to get started because the last 20 years, nothing has been done. As your system was growing, you guys should have been picking up, 100, 250 as you went along, and it didn't happen. So now we're kind of in a situation of putting you in a better position. That's not my call. That's you guys' call if you want to do that, but I think it's the right decision to do. So
I do have a question.
Yes.
So when you say capacity, are you talking system capacity or purchase capacity?
I'm talking about pipeline capacity on Northern natural gas pipeline. From the supply basin to the little fenced-in yard that you have here at the city of Harlan, which is called the town water station.
So our investment is really to have them increase their capacity to us. It's not internal to the utility, it's not internal to...
It's not an internal Harlan distribution system. It is Northern Natural Gas's pipeline. And it's not unique here that it's expensive in Harlan, it's expensive everywhere. I have a community in Northwest Iowa that wanted to add 500 of capacity, and it was $7 million. It's gotten expensive. Construction is not getting any cheaper. And half of my communities met brand new peak days on December 22nd. I thought February of 21 was really bad. December 22nd was the worst year in 35 years, worst 24 hours. Half of my communities met brand new peaks, and I asked Northern Natural to do an open season on the north branch and on the east leg of their system because I have several people that need to add some capacity. We won't add all of yours at one time because it's be too expensive, but we need to get on a program to where you guys are going to be in good shape in the future. In the meantime, we're going to help you with other people's capacity But if they end up growing themselves over time, then they'll need that capacity as well. But that's the great thing about being in our group. So that's what we are implementing if you choose to do so. It's basically a 3-part rate, easy to explain. You have your gas cost, you have your cost of transportation on the pipeline, and you have your city cost. Very easy to explain to a customer. Northern raises the rates from time to time. They're in the middle of a rate case right now. We don't know where it's going to settle out. We were hoping it was going to settle out, but now apparently it's going to probably carry on until April. We went 16 years from 2004 to 2020 without a rate increase on the pipeline, which was wonderful. They had one in 2020. They introduced another one in 2022 because the pipelines they put in the 1930s and 40s are old, and they're replacing those now. They're doing it on all pipelines across the whole country. And they are tearing those up and putting new ones in, and it just happened to where it's going to be costing money to do so. Northern spent $1 billion in the last 2 years to do that. And they have a right to recover that. That's the way the pipeline systems work, and it's spread out to all the shippers on the entire system. But you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of a 35% rate increase, just on your demand charges. And your demand charges, again, I mentioned earlier, your $1.4953 is pretty low, but it's low because you don't have enough capacity to meet really what your peak day would be. So other cities that do have their own capacity have a little bit higher demand costs, but they also control their own destiny if you're ever a standalone entity again. So
if this is, so to go to your future capacity expansion line.
Yep.
So we went through this kind of on the water utility as it relates to interruptible versus non-interruptible. If it's the interruptible customers that are peaking us, why are we not charging?
We don't have an interruptible customer that's peaking us. That's the problem. If we could interrupt them, we would have, but we don't have that ability to do that.
Our interruptible customer is getting changed to industrial on your chart.
Okay. All right.
That's stated in the resolution also.
So I go back to, if that column is gone, and what is it that's driving our peak? What is primarily driving our peak? Is it our residential, our large commercial, or industrial?
And we still will have we do still have interruptible clients or customers.
such as the
Like
hospital.
the high school, they do truly have backup.
Yes.
To be an interruptible, you have to have backup. So we do have.
And I guess to maybe explain that, Bill, as far as why that is zero on the future expansion.
Yeah, we broke out the interruptible customers out of that group that do not have a backup fuel. And if you don't have a backup fuel, then you're not truly an interruptible customer. And that means you need to pay your fair share of what the costs are. If you have alternative fuel as a backup, then you qualify for interruptible, like your hospital, I understand, does. And I have cities that once a year, whether it's cold or not, they interrupt their customer to make sure that their system is truly up and running. It's not a bad practice to go through. But that is something that's why they're an interruptible customer, and exactly what Joe said is they have zero demand costs, as you see, and they have zero future expansion because they don't use firm capacity. So they should not bear the cost of that. Because they've got the cost of maintaining their backup fuel systems. Those are expensive.
Thank you.
You bet. So overall, after going through your budgets the last 3 years, this rate analysis here allows you to cover your costs and to, have a margin that keeps your system operating in a good fashion moving forward to make improvements to your system and keep it safe and reliable. So we've combed through all that. Like I said, I just want you to be prepared when Northern has an open season. There is going to be quite an expense. And I mean, it's could be in the neighborhood of $1 million or $1.5 million for some capacity expansion. And I don't know if 25 cents is enough. Down in the pink off on the far right, That would be your annual dollars that you would collect based on your volume that you use on a per year basis. So I just want you to see that if you spend $1.5 million, how long it would take you to recover that. So it's your choice what you want that number to be. And it's unfortunate that we're in a situation that you guys are kind of that far behind. If this would have been kept up on every couple, 2 or 3 years as your system grew, we wouldn't be where we are today. I'm just, again, trying to help you guys become independent and put you where you need to be 15, 20 years from now.
So is somebody here representing the city today?
That would be me, yes.
Yeah, so the question is, this is great, but are we skating behind the puck? So what is where does this fit in capacity-wise for what the city has for, you have a master plan, right?
Mr. Sheldon, to be honest with you, I probably would not be familiar with it if we do. I just assumed the city council role in April of last year. I would probably have to refer you over to Gene Geddes probably to get a little more information on that. Would not be familiar with it. Sorry.
Yeah, and again, it's not an emergency, but it's something that, we saved you $80,000 in December alone by covering you with our group again, which is a wonderful thing. I organize and I run that and I manage all those towns, but truly it's Coon Rapids and Manning that should get the credit for saving you the $80,000. And we're here for you, but going forward, we need to do something when the time comes. I just don't want to come here 3 months from now and go, hey, we need to do an expansion, it's $1.5 million. I'm just openly communicating with you.
And truly, if we're looking at drawing any more business or anything into Harlan, we're going to have to look at getting more gas
It's a very good
to the
point.
city of Harlan.
Agree 100%. You have a great community and a great location. You don't want that to be a barrier for you. Yes.
I have 2 questions, please. What do you think our target capacity is? Did you say 6,000?
No, you hit 3,995, so 4,000 on December 22nd of 2022.
What would you like to see our target be for capacity?
Just get to that point for now. I mean, we need to kind of acquire from 2610, where you've been for, I don't know, 25 years maybe. We need to kind of get to 4,000 or move in that direction.
4,000 target? Okay.
Yeah, 4,000 target for where you are today. Now, I look at December 22nd, and I'm like, that's the first time in 35 years that we've had that kind of a load profile. All my towns pretty much met new peaks. Is that ever going to happen again? Well, I didn't think February 21 volumes were going to come back in a long time. So when those other volumes on December 22nd exceeded February 17th of 21, they blew by 15 to 20%. That was a bad 24 hours. So, again, it's not an emergency. I think the next biggest day you hit was like 3,500. So even if we can get up to 3,500 over the next 5 years or some program like that, I think that would be good.
What is our average?
For what time period?
What's our annualized average usage?
Oh, I don't know, and I mean, that's a good question, but it's kind of like when you build pipeline capacity, you got to build for that peak hour.
Yeah.
So you got to build for that peak day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I say
Okay.
that what I would suggest is that, it's eating the elephant one bite at a time, right?
You bet.
Ratepayers have to participate in this incremental growth. So when we start looking at max capacity and we build a max capacity, that's a foreboding figure. What's our average requirement? We have to kind of not placate, we have to speak to the community and say, listen, we're okay, or are we not okay? We are just talking about future growth, and we're talking about max events.
Yep.
Not, our max capacity is 2,600 and we average 25
Probably not even that for the year, because in the summer, you really don't have a lot of load. Most communities are very, very low in the summer. I think you need to look at your average pretty much from December through February, to be fair, on what an average is, because that's your winter period, December through February. That's what we always are, concerned about. You can have a bad day in November or March, but unlikely to be that December to February timeframe.
To offload some of the money, could we apply for infrastructure loan?
I was up in Wall Lake yesterday talking to Chris Rodman. He tells me that Joe Biden's got a lot of money out there today, and they're looking at connecting two pieces of their pipe for $500,000 and applying for a grant. So I don't know anything about grants. I mean, that's way beyond what I do, but I did hear that. He and I had a conversation yesterday. There is money out there. That's the first time I heard of it.
Yeah, and I know Chris from working in Sunquist days. We did work for Wall Lake, so I still got him in my phone, so
They're in the
I'll
process.
certainly give him a call and get some background from him on funding.
And that might help.
Yeah.
So, again, we've been doing this a long time. I'm completely confident that the direction of moving in this rate structure is the right thing to do. And it's explainable. And after what happened in February of 21, we just don't need those events going on anymore in any community. The unfortunate thing is if the administration that was here prior to Joe and Colburn, if they would have been a little bit more open, what you spent in gas, unfortunately, in February of 21, you could have spent in pipeline capacity and had that done. And it didn't happen. I know it's water under the bridge, but this is the right program, and this is where we need to move to help you so that doesn't happen anymore.
So my question then is, it helps us during the peak period. Will this also help us during our normal non-peak period as well? In other words, does it have a residual cost avoidance across non-peak periods?
No, there's no advantage there. You just buy it for your peak period. It's just like electricity. You pay a demand cost on your electricity peak. You pay a demand cost on your natural gas peak. And it stands there ready for you to be used. If you have extra capacity, like in the fall, I use a lot of capacity from all these other cities for grain drying. Grain drying is huge in here. So we can resell some of your capacity for you and collect some of that revenue for you as well. But it's not like you're collecting the entire thing. You get what the market rate is, and they pay what the market rate is. And it's called capacity release, and we do that on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, and our allotment changes throughout the year. I mean,
Yes.
2610
For 5 months.
5 months, and then I don't know what we are during the summer.
Yeah, I mean, that 2610 that you have, you only pay on that for the 5 winter months, and then it drops down to a lower number so that doesn't drown you with demand costs.
Yep.
That's a good point. I'm always thinking of 5 months because those are the
worst ones.
Those are the worst months. Yeah. The only thing I do want to say is I want you to consider that 25 cents as a board to consider if that's where you need to be. I put that in as a kind of a placeholder and to show you what it does, but I also want you to be aware of what the expenses are when the time comes.
So I think that's an RFI back to the city, or from you to the city to go, how does this match up against their growth plan?
They put me on the spot here today.
No, I don't need to do that.
It's not here, it doesn't need to be discussed here.
Yeah,
No.
It just needs to be,
for future discussion.
Well, and that goes in that economic growth too, with, getting together, Todd, what do we imagine
Expansion.
we might need?
Well, we haven't put a load number on it yet, but the key right now, and we all know that we have a great need to probably add, another 10% to our housing, at least, and that would just cover the people who work here now and don't live here. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't count any new residents. And then on the business side, I can just tell you that over the last 8 years, we've not responded to 7 opportunities to bring additional manufacturing here because we didn't have the utility that they would require. So we just didn't respond to the inquiry.
And you would still have those numbers then, Todd, as far as, we look at what was that usage going to be or need going to be, so at least we can structure.
Yeah, I can go back and find some of them, because they come electronically, so
Sure.
I'm sure I deleted some of them.
That gives us a base then at least to move forward.
Yeah, but, and really, that's the nice thing about our area, Shelby County, and specifically Harlan, is we have a great reputation for manufacturing out there in the business world. We also have a really good reputation for food processing but we don't have any, so there are people who are very interested in being here, considering our geographical location and everything else. But we just don't have anything for them right now when they want to come. And it's across the board. It's not just natural gas. Natural gas is a big part of it, but we also have effluent limitations and other things in place, so.
Okay. Some good discussion points.
Yeah.
One question I would have, the 25 cents that you have built in here, I agree with, I like it. The question is, what impact would that have if we decided to double that, 150 cents, what impact would that have to your average residential customer?
Well, it'd be 5 cents a CCF, so you just have to add 5 cents a CCF to your,
So like for 100 CCF, you look at $5.
Is that a typical, like, what, I honestly don't know off the top of my head what my...
I use what?
150.
150. Jenny, you were like 137 in your
Yeah,
house?
mine was, with the 25 cents, mine would
And that was
change to
December, I mean,
$3.
cold.
How much did you...
I think we figured that mine would have been, with this in place, that would have added $3.
Okay, so
a
if
month
we
to
doubled
my
that,
bill.
it would add 6. Not egregious when you think about
But again, it
where we
depends on your
stand.
usage, so
Right.
I think we have a fairly low usage, but you,
Mine's probably a little higher.
Okay.
I look at it as something critical for your future. And it's something that would have been in place, had I been here 20 years ago, I would have implemented something like that with you to expose that, and I just think it's critical for your future.
From my time on the board and my time on the Economic Development Board and the chamber and everything else, this has been a topic of conversation for as long as I can remember. It is one of those things that obviously we've pushed it down the road as far as we can, and something has to happen. How much is the question that we'll have to make that decision. I'm not opposed at all to your 25 cents. The question is,
Is it enough?
is it enough? And can I tell the average person whose bill went up by $4 or $5 a month why they need to do this and why it's important? And I think between the polar vortex thing that happened and the bills that they saw, hedging our bets and moving forward to make sure that those kinds of things don't happen again, or at least doing our best to eliminate them, seems reasonable.
Yes.
But exactly whether we go with 25 cents or 50 or somewhere in between that seems to be a discussion that we'll have to have before we can decide for sure. But
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think maybe the step or the sequence is you get after a grant, determine the success factor on the grant, yay or nay, and then we have do we have a rate discussion, or not a rate, well, just the future capacity expansion discussion.
I'm not so sure we have to go about it that way. I think we have to have the future capacity expansion discussion, and because we have to start getting funds in.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. We have to start getting funds in because we're not going to get something covered 100% with the
Right.
grant.
Go with the 25 cents while we are working towards the funding
Explore
side.
it, and yeah.
So
I could get behind that and say, let's implement the 25 cents while we explore whether it needs to be more, and if we decide it does, we can adjust it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's.
I think that's what we would.
Yeah, that's what I was recommending, is we do the 25 cents, and then anything above that is based off of grant acceptance or attainment.
Yes, Doug?
How often do they have open seasons?
They try to have one of those about once a year.
Typically, when do those happen?
Generally after the winters period, because people kind of find
I'm
out.
just trying to, where are we in the cycle? If we go with this funding, we wouldn't be prepared to do anything this calendar year, would we?
Well, that's kind of a deal where, I don't know what you guys have in your reserves, and it's none of my business, but people reach into their reserves to buy this capacity that they need, and then they replenish it with these funds that we have built in. And if you don't want to do that, you can wait a year to do it, but I wouldn't wait because construction costs just keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. Again, I would do it as soon as possible. Do you take out 1,500 because you're 1,500 short? No. We take out maybe 500 and then we kind of work away at it like 100 or 200 a year or something like that, depending on cost. Sometimes Northern will do a construction job in the neighborhood, and when they're done with that construction job, there'll be like 37 left over or something. I'm always scrubbing, through the web to see if I can find any extra capacity for any of my cities, and I would do the same for you, and those would not have any construction costs. You would just absorb that. But that doesn't happen very often. The ethanol plants have eaten up all the capacity out there.
And we're talking about actual construction, not just additional purchase within the current confines, correct? We're not buying additional capacity within a current pipeline. We're talking about additional pipeline construction.
Yeah, the pipelines are sold out. So the interstate gas pipelines are sold out. So whenever you request more capacity, what they'll do is they'll do an open season and then have 25 parties say, hey, I want this volume. Then they'll put that in their engineering department, and then they'll calculate what it would cost to deliver all of that to those 25 cities, which is great because after this open season, I think there's going to be a lot of parties playing which share the mainline construction costs, and it's better for you. But you put in a bid for capacity, and they come back and say, I can't do it for the tariff rates that you're paying on your 2610 today, but I can do it for this. Then you have a right to say yay or nay and get out if you don't like it. You're not bound to it because you put a request in. You're only bound to it if they come back and say, yeah, we can do that at tariff rates. Well, that hasn't happened for probably 8 years. It's always a market-based rate depending on what the construction costs are of all the requests that they have in the bundle. But if it's above the tariff rate, which is published, that you pay on your 2610 that you've had for years and years and years, you don't have to take it, or you can reduce your volume. Say you apply for 600 and you go, that's too expensive. Let's just take 400 of that. Well, then we can do that.
Thank you.
You bet. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've done for you in the first month and a half, or anything that I'm doing today?
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my job. Thank you. Okay, well, I won't keep you guys any longer unless you guys have any more questions for me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Guess that's all I have. Just see you later. Have a good night.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the resolution changing the way the gas rates are billed?
Is this the motion, or is this the service motion?
The resolution is the motion. This will be how the rates are figured.
And like we mentioned, we're adding that industrial classification on there too, so we're going from currently 4 up to 5 classifications also.
Yeah. So is this how we would normally adjust a rate? Is it a slide in a separate Word document? Or would we combine them so that we actually have?
No, because these are not going to be actual numbers because they're going to change every month.
So I guess that's more of an example, Jim, or a guideline.
That's how he figured out those numbers.
So we will have that available if anybody asks, but it doesn't actually go in our rate resolution because it'll be variable.
I make a motion to accept the resolution 26 to 2023.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Cider, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
All right, item number 6 is rescind gas policy number 1.
Yeah, and you guys have a copy of the old one in there, looking back from, when it was revised in '99. So basically that's just changing how that, we had the gas purchase adjustment at that time, rescinding that just so we go with this new
I mean, we
resolution.
can't have conflicting policies.
Exactly.
And we've decided we like it to be rescinded at a board meeting, because then we have paperwork on when it was taken away and.
That's good.
So I just need a
I'll make a motion to rescind gas policy number 1.
I'll second.
roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Cider, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
All right, item number 7, the City of Harlan request for HMU to contribute to Christmas lights for the poles on Cyclone and downtown. The approximate full cost is $14,000.
And I don't know on that, Kyle, how much you and Gene had talked about it. I know Gene couldn't make it tonight.
Correct.
Basically, yeah, they're looking at a possible split. I know Jenny found some information back in January 2016. The same item was kind of brought up as far as contributing every year, I think, to purchase new lights. But it was tabled at that point, so nothing's really ever been,
Yeah,
couldn't find any example of.
There was
Did we
discussion.
split it before, but.
Yeah, there was discussion in the board, and Ken requested that the city provide a plan on what they were gonna do. We don't know if Gene and Ken talked about that, or if it ever went any further, but there was nothing else in any board meetings, so that's about all the history that we have on that.
And reference that, I spoke to Gene this afternoon here, but he was going to go through some of our personnel and finance subcommittee minutes to see if there was any talk of that to present to council. Basically what it is the streets department, I came to Gene in reference to the condition of the current lights that we have. I think they're over 20, almost 25 years old. And they advised that they'd probably be lucky if they would make it another year due to the condition that they're in now, and to look into possibly replacing them. So Gene had done some research, and basically the company that would provide them, I think we're looking at between 18 to 20 of them was what the number count to be, and they referenced a cost of between $700 to $800 per piece, new. They do kind of run a special program, I guess, when the season kind of closes out, to have something that you can get it as a little cheaper, as they come out with new models or apparently new hanging decorations. But the city just kind of had discussed it through nothing formal action or anything like that, in reference to, I believe, a total cost of $14,000 to see if it would be like a collaborated effort, or a cooperated effort to see if HMU would be willing to split that cost, or if this is something to proceed to go forward. So, because I think regardless, I think that we're probably going to eventually have to do it because they are in very poor condition. One of the things I think was brought up in question too that we couldn't find an answer to is, as far as like the storage and the condition of obviously the new ones we want to take, obviously, not say that we didn't take great care of them, but to make sure that when you're spending the money on them, that they can stay in good condition and last for future years to come. So basically, it was just looking to see what you guys would be interested in doing and going forward, in a cooperation effort. So.
And right now, we do store, they're all stored down in South Pole Barn, full shed down there now. So they do get hung every year, so
Do the merchants put in any money?
At this,
People that own the businesses around town?
no, not that we have approached or anything like that. It's basically the city. I think when they tried to, did you find, I think the city had paid for them. I don't know personally, but they tried to dig back from Municipal Park to see an initial purchase of them. But no, there was no money taken from merchants. I think it was just
Is that a qualification, I guess, for the motel month funds?
No.
No?
No, because the reason is if we use hotel motel, when you look at hotel motel funds, you have to look at it as if you do it for one, you have to do it for all.
What do you got line?
So if we contributed to the Harlan city lights for that,
No.
then you have to do it for every community in Shelby County. So that pretty much would just wipe out the hotel motel fund completely.
And I do
With
have
Christmas lights.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
No, go ahead.
No,
Ashley at the city said that they do have citizens coming in and telling them how bad they look on Cyclone in downtown. And she also stated that they are on sale right now and they do take up to 20 weeks to make. So it wouldn't even be until the next budget year, which would be the 23-24 budget year.
Correct, so it'd be in your future budget.
So it would be the budget that we will be approving in February.
Colburn, is it our labor that puts these up every year? Does the city get involved in the putting them up and taking them down?
I know the line guys put them up, take them down. I know there have been times when we have something come up and the city does help do it.
But for the most part, if we have the time, it is HMU that does that and we store it.
And I don't know exactly how much time that the city puts into it. I can't really honestly answer that. I just know they go out and the electric guys go out and do what they can to get them up and get them down.
I can tell you if you want at the next meeting or after this meeting how much time our guys put in because we keep track of it with a job number.
I'll be the first one to say I'm not a huge fan of committing ratepayer money to. We've got an awful lot of projects on the books that are costing an awful lot of money going on between the water, electric, and gas, and all the other challenges that we're faced with trying to get ourselves into a better position. And Christmas lights aren't really part of our mission. I understand sometimes you do those things, and I can see where there's some benefit to the community, but no one has come to me and said, hey, we got excess money, what are we going to do with it? So this isn't my favorite time to entertain this kind of a thing, I'll be honest. But it's not to say I wouldn't go with it, but we got a lot of big expenditures out there that have to do with our real mission, which is gas, electric, water, and telecom, not so take that for what you will.
Is the timing of this ask related to disposal of the existing lights as opposed to putting them back in a storage? So you just said we have a little bit of lead time, so why?
In that question, somebody had mentioned maybe like, is this something that we could resell, to a smaller community or whatever? And the answer I believe we got is the condition of them is probably not. You probably would not get much for them. So the company doesn't take them back for any type of recycling or reusage for anything. So it would probably be just something that would be thrown.
Yeah, my question is really, the timing of it, is there a labor component savings? In other words, we take them down, we throw them away, as opposed to take them down, store them, then make a decision to dispose of them, bring them out, and then have to dispose of them. Why can't we just, if it takes 20 weeks to order these, right? David makes a good point. We've got, some fiscal challenges right now. Maybe the answer is not right now. Correct. It's not a no, it's a not right now, and we assess later, if that makes sense.
Basically, it was just brought up for discussion. We're not looking for like a formal yes or no.
Oh, okay.
I just, in the reaction of to say, maybe if it doesn't happen this year, if this agreement doesn't work, or if the city assumes the costs, that it could, it does not, there's nothing that says this has to happen right here, right now.
And when I talked to the street superintendent, I think what they're wanting to know also is if HMU doesn't go in, they are going to probably they're going to have to budget less, and then how many they're going to need to buy to, like, if they're only going to they'll only be able to replace a portion this year and then a portion next year.
Correct.
Yeah, it becomes a little easier to make a decision to support this if the city or the county or the chamber has this as part of a plan. Whether it's, we have a heck of a display up there on the square, right?
That's privately done.
Okay. So is there a campaign around Christmas lighting, or is it just that we've done it and we're going to continue to do it and we don't know if it's...
This particular set of lights is exactly that. It's just always been done. They've always put Christmas lights up on the light poles. for, you can go back forever. Most communities do. Most communities put Christmas lights up on the light poles on their major travel areas. That's what these are. What happens down on the square is privately done, and my understanding of the history of Harlan back in the 70s, it went even further. And they actually hung lights from the courthouse and ran them across to each corner building. And, you know, but the trees have gotten too big to be able to do that now. But that's all funded through, really it's a volunteer group, and as those are maintained by a volunteer group. HMU is kind enough, again, to help us with a little bit of storage area for those lights, but it's a volunteer group that buys them, maintains them, and puts them up, and takes them down.
Yeah, basically just general discussion. It's something, you know, we can obviously get for the future and rediscuss and cross it then, so.
I think it's,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8, general policy number 48, reconnection of utility service charges.
So are we tabling that, or we're just not motioning,
We're not, no one's
just nothing?
prepared to present a motion.
We have
nothing.
nobody, okay.
Oh,
Joe,
okay,
tell us about
sorry.
number 8.
Yeah, number 8, previous policy had it to where if somebody was disconnected and reconnected because of, you know, being gone for winter months, if it was over 30 days, it was 3 times the basic service charge. We started looking at that, and some of those can be a pretty hefty number if they've got a big water, you know, large water meter. So we wanted to revamp that, you know, so it's, I guess, a more reasonable number compared. I mean, we did check with a couple of different municipalities, like Denison they actually do not charge, you know, either. I don't think they charge at all for, you know, disconnect, reconnects. But we thought at least we need to charge something, so we basically came up with what's in your packet there as far as, you know, based on electric and water services. Either 25, 150, or 25 and 100.
And this is reconnections for anything. We have snowbirds that turn stuff off during the winter, but then this would also be for people that are shut off for non-payment. If somebody just calls and requests something to be shut off, it's going to cover all the shut-offs, not just one classification. And it'll be a little more streamlined to where there's not a timeline of how long they're shut off.
Okay. And this is actually lower than the current fees?
For most of them, yes. The second sheet, I have our old policy, and then it shows what the current, you'll see that the lowest one was $47.58, and that would be for an electric. And so now it'll only be $25.
So yeah, you get up, like I said, you get up into like the 4-inch water service, or I mean, you can get up into above $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't want to do away with it totally, but, you know, we figured it's worth at least, I think we base those numbers kind of on a truck roll and what time it might take to actually go out and do it. So we're just trying to cover our costs at this point.
The only cost that's going up is the after hours. That was previously $50, and then that will be $100. And we don't do any after hours anyway unless it's for non-payment, and we're required to by the Iowa Utility Board if it's between a certain time frame.
So I move to adopt general policy number 48 dated March 1, 2023.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Sheldon, aye.
Cyber aye.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle,
Hammer, aye.
Okay, item
And
number
I will
9.
change that date because that's wrong. Oh wait, no, March 1, never mind, this is correct.
Tentative agreement for contract extension between Harlan Municipal Utilities and AFS CME Iowa Council 61 Local 1014.
Yeah, there's a copy you have in your packet there. It's a 2-year contract. Cost of living increase at 10%, fiscal year 2023, and at 6% 2024. There was a request to also include clothing in that contract, but we chose to keep that separate instead of being in the contract. They were agreeable to that. The union was to keep that separate.
I'll make a motion to accept the contract extension.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Cyber die.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
Okay. This is what it is, because I read it out the way it's written, correct? In its entirety? Okay, I'd have to read this in its entirety.
You just read what's on the agenda would be fine.
Okay. It is the time and place for the public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of notes into evidence the obligation of the city thereunder not to exceed $7,500,000 water revenue capital loan notes. Have there been any written objections? Are there any oral objections?
There are none.
Okay, time for receiving written or oral objections is now closed. Moving on to item number 11. The resolution instituting proceedings to take additional action for the authorization of loan agreement and the issuance of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $7,500,000 water revenue capital loan notes.
And like I said, basically this is more for the interim financing during construction of our water project. And then once the construction finished, that would get rolled into our USDA loan or funding for a permanent.
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second that motion.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Cyber die.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
All right, item number 12 will be banking resolutions. These will be to,
It's basically just adding Doug to the, as a signer on the bank accounts for checks.
okay.
We have to approve these every time we get a new
Yeah.
board member or CEO.
Do we have
Do I
to,
vote on that?
You can.
do we approve them individually or is it?
Nope, all at
All
once
at
is fine, yep.
So,
I'll approve. The bank motion.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve resolution A, B, C, and D.
I'll second.
and roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Cyber die.
Terrell, aye.
Michelle, aye.
Hammer, aye.
All right, Joe, you're up.
All right, just a few items, updates. Can announce now on the water plant litigation. I think we mentioned something as far as an email that we did receive the $550,000 check. We were waiting on the second check, that we did receive that 2 days ago, yesterday?
I think so.
An additional $150,000 for a total award amount of $700,000. Next item, we did receive a $500,000 grant for our water project also. We got that news here a week ago, I guess. Something like that. I guess we need to kind of get a hold of Iowa Finance Authority there and see what our next steps are. At least that was supposed to be announced. Next item, we do have all easements in place now and recorded for our water project. That was part of USDA requirement for the funding. And on that same note, 6 of our 7 title opinions that were a requirement also to be completed before we can bid. 6 of those 7 title opinions are complete. We are working with the title company there as far as the description on one of the abstracts yet. Hope to get that worked out here this week or next. And then we can get that last title opinion sent into USDA for it. We'll have that all taken care of then too for the pre-bid of the project. The engineer, we did talk to the engineer McClure Engineering as far as how that's progressing with the plans. They're still fairly confident that we'll be able to approve plans end of the month, hopefully. You know, and I don't know if that'll have to run into our maybe our, I don't know if that's something we can add to our February 9th.
Like add what I was going to.
Approve all those plans, you know,
Oh.
if it tracks that way. I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. And then we would give them about 4 weeks is what they're recommending for contractors to put their bids together. So hopefully end of February into March, we would have bids back and be able to accept something so we can start moving forward into construction. And lastly, we did receive 2 applications for our staff accountant, 5 applications for cashier. So we'll be setting up some interviews here in the next couple weeks. That's all I have. Any questions or comments for me?
Yeah, just one relative to the water. So we wisely surged as it relates to doing some well treatments, and you've got some extra cash flow. Does that allow you to accelerate your well treatment plan coming up? In other words, you know, how many have been completed, how many are budgeted, and how many are remaining, kind of to maybe try to get out ahead of the, it's great that we're getting a well field, but
You gotta stay on top of it.
yeah, so are we able to do that, or do we think we have good confidence that we're gonna?
We've got 6 budgeted for the next fiscal year, and we're still gonna try to get 3 more done this year. We're gonna try to find the funds and get 3 done before we go into summer so that we can have that extra capacity before our peak usage hits.
Thank you.
Yeah, our thought process is, to stay out of any kind of water conservation.
That's the main goal.
That's
That would be a great goal.
yes.
That would be great. Do we have anything from anyone else? All right, we are adjourned.